But this is where it becomes very interesting when you think about what Monet might have seen in London, given that this is 1872 to 3, not very long after Monet had returned from his period of self-imposed exile. Here's a painting, Turner, sun rising through vapour, fishermen cleaning and selling fish, from about 1806, 1807, which was in the National Gallery Turner room. And another work that he might have known is this work by Turner of Le Havre, the Tower of Francis I, from about 1832. This is a hand-coloured steel engraving after the original watercolour. And it's very interesting that you have already this industrial emblem, this industrial symbol in the steamship there on the right-hand side of the picture. And of course, by the time Monet was painting Impression Sunrising in 1872 to 1873, that port was just filled with steamships. The age of sail was rapidly coming to an end. Well, of course, it's been Turner, 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 no acknowledgement of Monet, no acknowledgement of Constable. And so here's the moment, I suppose, to remind ourselves that actually when the Impressionists were in London, there were not that many Constables on view. This one here, the Cornfield of 1826, had been presented to the National Gallery, the new National Gallery in London, by a group of subscribers to mark Constable's death, which had occurred in 1837. There were paintings by Turner and Constable in the South Kensington Museum, now the Victoria and Albert Museum. There was the John Sheepshanks gift of 233 works by British artists given to the South Kensington Museum in 1857. But Constable's most famous painting, the painting that had really started it all, if you like, in France back in 1824, did not enter the collections of the National Gallery in London until 1886. For all that time, throughout all of those decades, that wonderful painting, that iconic painting, that second greatest British painting, had been in a private collection in Paris. And then in 1888, Isabel Constable, the artist's daughter, presented nearly 400 of her father's works to the Victoria and Albert Museum, virtually turning the museum into the International Centre for Constable Studies, which I guess it remains to this day. And she also bequeathed several more major works which arrived later. Here's a portrait by Edgar Degas of Edmond Duranty from around 1875. This is a key literary figure, a very close associate of the Impressionist circle. And he's being mentioned at this point and in relation to Constable because in 1876 he published a book called La Nouvelle Peinture, the new painting. And this included a selection of aphorisms drawn from the French translation of C.S. Leslie's Memoirs of the Life of John Constable. And the book formed an important step, it marked an important step in the process of theorizing Impressionism, because Impressionism had not been written about much up to this point, had not been written about much up to 1876. So Duranty's book formed an important step in the process of theorizing Impressionism and placing it in its time and history. And one of the key aphorisms, and it is one that struck many of the artists of the Impressionist circle as an important, something important to inform their approach and their practice to painting, is this statement, which you've heard before earlier in this lecture. When I sit down, the first thing I try to do is to forget that I have ever seen a picture, which is what the Impressionists attempt to do, to respond without preconceptions to the immediacy of the experience of sensing, to the uniqueness of the moment. This painting here of a hoar frost was in the first Impressionist exhibition of 1874. And if you think back to that what that friend of Constable's overheard in the salon in 1824. Look at these pictures by an Englishman. The ground appears to be covered with dew. That was the wonder of Constable's landscape painting at that time. That was the veracity of this, the truth of this, that the ground appears to be covered with dew. So look at this picture by a French artist. The ground is covered, not with paint scrapings, as one contemporary art critic would have it, but with what represents frost, what represents chill, what represents the crackle of ice. And this painting, Meadow with Haystacks near Giverny of 1885, surely this painting carries the cultural memory of Constable's impact on that earlier generation of French artists. Surely in this painting with its billowing clouds, the vaporous nature of the clouds, with its stippled treatment of trees, with its vivacious and vibrant field of dots and slashes of colour that represent flowers and plants and grasses, surely this carries the memory of Constable, as indeed does this one, Meadow with Haystacks near Giverny, which shows that the tradition of painting en plein air sur a motif introduced into French painting, reinforced in French painting by Constable from 1824 onwards, the tradition of painting en plein air sur le motif from direct observation reached its greatest moments in late 19th century French painting. Kia ora tātou katoa, thank you very much.